The first time I saw him, something inside me shattered. Not in a painful way, no. More like a crack in glass. Silent but permanent. He wasn't even looking at me. He was standing there, hands behind his back, staring at a painting with the kind of focus I hadn't seen in years. My husband used to look at me like that. Before routine replaced curiosity. Before silence became safer than conversation. Before I stopped being a person and became a function. He turned slightly and our eyes met. Not dramatically. No sparks. Just a glance that lasted a second longer than it should have. That second stretched like an elastic thread. It tugged at something I had long buried. A longing. A question. Maybe even guilt. I walked past him that night. Didn't say a word. But for hours afterward, I thought about that glance. That expression. That subtle recognition of sadness. I went back the next day. I told myself it was for the art. I wore perfume I hadn't touched in months. He was there again. Different shirt. Same intensity. He remembered me. This time he spoke. "You were here yesterday," he said. Not a question. A statement. His voice wasn't deep or smooth. It was real. Raw. Human. It scratched something under my skin. We started talking. Small talk at first. Books. Music. Silence. Our silences were strangely comfortable. We would walk through the gallery saying nothing, but somehow understanding everything. He never asked about my ring. I never offered an explanation. I wasn't ready to speak my truth out loud. Speaking it would make it real. And so it began. Slowly. Like a soft drizzle turning into rain. A coffee. A touch on the arm. A laugh that lasted too long. A glance that lingered too deep. We never planned it, but one day it happened. The kiss. That trembling, terrifying, breathless kiss that screamed everything we didn't say. I felt alive. And that's what terrified me. I started lying. Slipping out for yoga or book club. My husband never noticed. Or maybe he did and just didn't care anymore. I looked for signs of jealousy in him, signs of love, of ownership. But there was nothing. Just silence. He would ask if I wanted anything from the store, if I had fed the dog, if I paid the bills. But never, "Are you happy?" Never, "Where were you last night?" Guilt became my second skin, but so did desire. The two danced together inside me, one choking, the other burning. And every time I said I was working late, I was really wrapped in another man's arms, pretending I didn't exist outside that moment. Then I made a mistake. A photo. Just our hands, barely touching, under the soft yellow light of a cafe. My phone, face down on the table, lit up. My husband saw it. Didn't say a word. Just looked. Then he handed me the phone and walked away. That silence screamed louder than any accusation. That night, he didn't sleep in our bed. He stayed in the guest room. The next morning, the kitchen was cleaner than usual. He had made coffee. For himself. Days passed. We spoke only through necessities. I tried to explain once. He shook his head. "Don't," he said. "It'll make it worse." The other man waited. He texted, called. I didn't answer. I couldn't. He represented something I no longer had the right to want. Freedom. Weeks went by. I watched my husband become a ghost in our home. Still breathing, still existing, but gone. I wanted to scream, to beg, to erase everything, but I didn't. I let it rot in silence. One night I found him standing in the kitchen holding the photo. The same one. He looked at me and said, "That's not what broke us." I asked what did. He said, "You stopped being here long before he came." I cried. Not because of the pain I caused, but because of the truth I'd been avoiding. I had left my marriage in pieces before I ever met the man who made me feel again. The betrayal wasn't the kiss. It was the silence that came years before. I don't speak to the other man anymore. I don't know if he's moved on. I don't know if he thinks of me. I sometimes wish I had never met him. Other times, I thank the universe for letting me feel something real, even if only for a moment. My husband and I still live together. We eat dinner. We wash dishes. We exist. But the love, We buried that in the silence. And now, if you're reading this and wondering if you should take that step, ask yourself, are you looking for someone else? Or are you just trying to find yourself again? Because sometimes the deepest betrayal isn't of another person. It's of the version of yourself you promised to protect. And I broke that promise. Sometimes I lie awake at night and wonder when exactly I disappeared. Not from others, but from myself. There wasn't a single moment, no dramatic goodbye. It was gradual, like a slow leak in a boat you didn't realize you were on until you started sinking. He made me forget the script. That's what scared me the most. He looked at me and saw something no one had seen in years. Not a wife, not a worker, not a hostess or homemaker, but a woman. A flawed, complicated, craving human being. And God, how I missed being seen like that. One time we lay on his floor in the dark, just listening to each other breathe. He told me about the time his father left. I told him about the last time my husband kissed me like he meant it. We didn't need advice. We needed each other's presence. But time is cruel. It doesn't care how you feel. It doesn't stop just because you're happy. The more I tried to hold on to him, the more the real world pulled at me. Groceries, bills, emails, guilt. Guilt was always the loudest. He started asking questions. Are you happy? What are we doing? Are you going to leave him? And I didn't have answers, only fear. Then one day, I stopped replying. I watched my phone buzz and eventually fall silent. He didn't chase me. He let me go. I stayed, with the man who stopped seeing me and the woman I stopped being. Now I live in this in-between. I'm not with him, but I'm not really with my husband either. I keep a photo of us in that cafe, his hand over mine, in a drawer I never open, but never throw away. If this story feels familiar, maybe it's because it's yours too. Or maybe it's one you're trying not to write. Either way, know this. Love can save you, but it can also destroy you if it's built on silence and fear. I don't know if I'll ever be whole again. But I know now that losing yourself in someone is never love. Love is what brings you back to yourself, not what makes you vanish. And I vanished. This isn't an apology, and it's not a confession either. It's just a release of all the things I've carried. Secrets, guilt, memories, versions of myself that I couldn't hold on to. This story was the heaviest. I don't know what comes next. I don't have answers. I only know that I needed to say this, to admit it, to name it. Because silence can't be the end of every broken love story. Someone has to speak, even if no one listens. So this is me, speaking. Not to be forgiven, not to be loved again, but just to be real. And for the first time in a very long time, I finally am.